I'm back. I had to run. All is well. I'm gonna wait once again for myself to pop up here. Oh, am I not able to chat? What's going on? Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so let's see. So before we had 5 people, now 3 people. Hopefully those who were those who were engaging at any rate would come back. Okay, and I'm live once again. Tea Time says hi. Hello, Tea Time. Okay, so it seems right now it's just you and I, maybe, and one other person. Okay, maybe. I don't know how it works. Do you receive a notification when I go live? And what if I stop and then go live again? Do you receive another notification? I don't know. Yodidiao, hopefully everyone's okay. Yes, yes, yes. Everyone is okay. Welcome back, says Bloodnose. Thank you for staying. Notified and again. Oh, okay. Well, I hope that doesn't deter people. I usually don't do that, right? I usually am live just the once, but hopefully, even if you do get a couple of notifications, it will be worth your while. All right, so now, wait, you know what? Oh, I don't have the questions here. So I forgot to do the Q&A thing. So Tea Time, I saw you had a couple of questions. Could you write them in the chat here, perhaps? Because I don't have the Q&A section, because when I left the video, it was all erased. So please get that if you want, if you want. Now, I was in the middle of speaking of the number 3 and its significance because you asked, Tea Time, on the significance. Bil'am beat his donkey 3 times. So the idea of 3, right, associated with the left, right, and center. Hey, there's my woman. I love you too. We love you, man. We understand things happen that are out of our control. Yes, well, that's the nature of the internet, really. No. So yes, I appreciate the vote of confidence, Tea Time, and my woman. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So the number 3, right? So the number 3, it represents the left, right, and center. It represents the 3 higher sfirot, the 3 higher revelations, right? Which are, let's say, above this world, so to speak. There's no above, below, right, left, top, bottom in the spiritual realms. These are all words that we use in order to give us a semblance, a kind of idea of what it is that we are dealing with. And through using these terms that we can understand, we are able to reach that which is not so easily understood. Let's put it that way. We are able to transcend our own limitations by talking about things within the context and within the limitations that we are able to, insofar as speech, revelations of God, is concerned. I will riddle you a riddle, says Yodidiau. Ani echad, I am one, avalim arba, but with 4. What am I? I am 1, but with 4. Well, I would think that the 1 is right related to God, and the arba either represents the 4 legs, let's say, of the chariot, of the Merkava, or the 4 letters in the Tetragrammaton, or the 4 different worlds, as they are known. And that's all different revelations of the same root thing, right, of the name of God, of Yod He Vav He. That's what I would go for. I would say that God is 1, revealed through Yod He Vav He, which is 4. But I don't know. So does anyone have a different opinion on the riddle? Does anyone want to take a shot at Yodidiau's riddle? I am 1, but with 4. What am I?
That is so good.
In the meantime, I'll continue with Yechida. Shalom, ma kore? Shalom, Shalom Steinberg. Hi there. Hello. מה קורה? הכל טוב? השבח לאל. תודה לאיה. Wait, did you mean אחודה נלחם יחידה or חידה? Because those are 2 very different things. Question, says Tea Time. Have you ever had spiritual dryness, and how do you handle it? Spiritual dryness. Look, first of all, can you explain to me what you mean when you say spiritual dryness? Am I correct in assuming you mean it's times when you feel away from the Most High, a disconnect from God? Is that what we're talking about? You'll have to clarify a little bit. Lots of health, happiness, wealth, and a lot of money, says Shalom Steinberg. And to you, Shalom, and to us all. Briut, Aikar Briut. The most important thing is your health. That's definitely the case. So, tea time, could you zero in on what you mean by spiritual dryness? And others, feel free to answer. When you have points of, or times, periods of times, of spiritual dryness, how do you handle it? What does it mean to you to be spiritually dry? Achuda chida echad yechida. Shalom Achi, says Robert. Right, so you're talking about the kind of correlation, if you will, or resemblance between chida, yechida, echad. I understand. Now, what does it mean to you, right? They don't all share the same root. The chet and the dalid are there, that's true. But, so nefesh, ruach, nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya is 4. And what? So the echad is yechida, because we know that there are traditionally 5 parts corresponding with the tip of the yod, and then the yod, hey, vav, and hey, which is 5. I am in the book of Chavakuk. The book of Chavakuk is one where I don't think I've ever studied it with commentary. I've read it through, not enough times, I must say. I remember the tefillah lechavakuk hanavi al shigyonot, right? Shamati shim'acha yareti. If I'm not mistaken, that's from Sefer Chavakuk. But I haven't studied it in depth. Do share a tidbit, a piece of lore, a gem, a little bit of wisdom from the book of Chavakuk as you perceive it, Robert. What are you reading there right now? Because I know it's a relatively short book, so I would love to know more about how you are reading it, and if is the translation, well, maybe you wouldn't know, but is the translation one that you find that you can relate to, that resonates with you? Yodidyao, Yechida means unit, right? Yes, Yechida means unit, but Yechida also means soul, not soul, it's S-O-L-E, like alone, singular. Singular in the female, in the feminine form. Thousand, you've been here before. Do you guys like Christians and Muslims? I like people. I don't really care what religion or faith they follow. Of course, if they want to get into it, obviously we can debate, although I'm not much of a debater. But do you guys, so he's asking you guys, do you guys like Christians and Muslims? Well, look, on this channel we have Hebrews and Christians and Muslims and Hindus and others on a regular basis, so I'm inclined to say yes. Yes, we do like them here. I enjoy hearing you speak Hebrew, Nancy says. Toda rabba. I enjoy speaking Hebrew. It is truly a pleasure and a wonder and a privilege to be born in Israel, to have it as a mother tongue alongside English. Those two languages can open up so many doors, right? Hebrew can open up spiritual doors, and English can open up material doors. And I have the best of both worlds with those two languages as a bilingual, and I cannot thank my parents enough for raising me with both languages despite the difficulties. Look to the texts, look to the texts. I answered you on spiritual dryness. Spiritual dryness, he says, not inspired or motivated to pray, not feeling God's consolation. Well, here's the thing. To each individual, it comes out a different way. What is it, or in a different way, what is it that you do, that you are aware of, that sort of, that kind of causes that disconnect? Because we know for a fact that as long as we are here, a fact, it's not a fact as in an objective fact. Obviously, it's subjective, if what you believe in and what you have faith in, but not feeling God's consolation. There are times when God shows an angry face, right, a revelation of anger or of being apart, in order for what's called ga'agua, kisufim in Hebrew, which means to want, right? You want to be, just in the same way that God revealed anger in front of Moses, so Moses will counter it and learn how to bring balance. There are times when God shows an angry face, or that he is far away, or that God is, right? There's a revelation of separation. But here's the thing. The relationship between the individual and the Most High is very much like two lovers. And we know that in the Hebrew faith, even lovers who are married, there are times when they are apart, and there are times when they are together. There are times of cleanliness and uncleanliness, of ritual purity and impurity. And so even when the relationship is one of the most intimate nature, the nature of this world is that you ebb and flow. This ebb and flow of the relationship between, let's say, a married couple, in the same way is the ebb and flow between God and man, the individual and the Most High. Now, depending on what you do in times of physical separation from your woman, right? You can be spiritually connected, mentally connected. You can still laugh. You can still laugh together, cry together, do foolish things together. Certain things are barred from you, and so it can cause a feeling of being distant. But it's only skin deep, as it were. It's not the inside, right? A man and wife who are separated because, let's say, she's menstruating, and so they cannot touch each other, right, for that week. Traditionally, it's a week, right, according to Torah, a week of ritual impurity and uncleanliness, and then they come back together again, and they can unify, and they can unite. During those times when there's physical separation, you are called to go deep, deep into your kishke, deep into your guts, and be able to find different ways of promoting unity through speech, body language, through anything from watching a dumb TV show together to reciting poetry and serenading, to leaving a stupid note in the morning, say, hey, I love you, have a great day. It's like you find ways of coming back together and finding each other, and eventually the physical element is also reintroduced into the relationship. In the same way, if you are spiritually dry, first of all, ask yourself, be honest with yourself, sit with yourself, hitbodedut, right? Prayer, alone, seclusion, spontaneous. What is it that I am doing, if I am? Where is it that I might be at fault? Now, which is why you're not supposed to do this 24 hours. You're supposed to do it for 1 hour out of the day, to sit and take stock of yourself, right? And see, okay, where am I doing wrong? What could I be doing better? Where am I sinning? Where am I failing? Where am I transgressing? Where am I doing it knowingly? Where am I doing it unknowingly? But then kind of, I probably should have known that. You really, really take stock of yourself every single day. That is atonement. That is repentance. That is getting closer to God, even if you don't see it manifesting right then and there in your perception of spiritual. Well, what's the opposite of dryness, right? It's not exactly, what would it be? Spiritual hydration, okay? Even if you don't feel spiritually hydrated, if you put in the effort and you, take stock of yourself, and if it's not yourself and you are indeed without any sin that you can think of, first of all, good for you, teach me how. Second of all, Second of all, if you truly are saying, God, I haven't done anything wrong, I don't know why I'm feeling so apart from you right now, please reveal yourself to me, give me an answer, give me something, I'm on my knees, I'm prostrating myself before you, I'm begging you, give me something, I'm feeling so dry, so far apart, so distant, and I can't take it, because I know exactly what it's like to feel your closeness, I know what it's like to feel your embrace, and to be far from you is torture. That is the definition of hell. It's knowing that there is something, but not being able to get there. Yet, if you are able in those moments, first of all, sometimes it's just like sadness, depression, it crushes you, and you'll have to wait until another day. Sleep it off, do what you need to do. I don't know what to do sometimes. But I do know that as long as I draw breath, it means that God has faith in me, so to speak, and in my abilities. Even if I'm at the lowest of the low, I can rise up, because if I believe that I can be spiritually devoid and dry, I can also be filled with the kindness and grace of the Most High. By the very same token, right? Two sides of the coin. Okay. Yodidiao says, you need the 4 to get to the 5th? Yes. Traditionally speaking, when you are ben or bat mitzvah, bar or bat mitzvah, 13 and 12 respectively, and 1 day, 13 and 1 day, 12 and 1 day, then you can start acquiring the nefesh. When you are 20, you can start acquiring the ruach. When you are 40, if I'm not mistaken, you can start acquiring the neshama. And, chaya yechida, and so on. The thing is that each one of those 5 elements also has 5 within it. There's nefesh of nefesh, ruach of nefesh, neshama of nefesh, and so on and so forth. So it's really a kind of basic 25 levels. Now, you need to be of a certain... What is it, my man? Thank you. No, I don't want any. Let's put it this way. That is exactly why a person does become bar or bat mitzvah, respectively. It's because up until then, they are considered children, halachically, technically speaking, and so they cannot truly acquire that sort of that sort of spiritual manifestation, like that revelation, right? To be coursing through them. And it's not that kids can't be kind and full of grace themselves. It's just that the way that things are channeled, traditionally speaking, the way that divine revelation is channeled into a child is different than to somebody who is commanded to keep the commandments. That's what a bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah is. It means now you are becoming an adult. Now you are bound by the rules and the laws of the Torah and the covenant. And so now you must be taking the yoke and the burden on yourself. For instance, up until the ben or bat mitzvah, it's the father and the mother that take on the sins of the children. As it were. You can say it's metaphorical, you could say that it's figurative, or you can say it's actually literally the case. But when a boy of 13 years goes up to the Torah for the first time, the father traditionally says, "Blessed is he who has ridden me of this dude's punishment." Because up until now, up until that time, it's the father who would pay, so to speak, for the sins of the children. So it's a little, I might be not saying it properly right now, but basically, you have the capacity of nefesh shel nefesh when you turn 13. And should you acquire all of those different things, and it entails, keeping Torah and commandments. Again, we're talking about the Hebrew people. I don't know about the nations. I know with the Hebrew people, it's nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya yechida, corresponding to the tip of the yod and the yod hey vav hey, and you can start acquiring, let's say, those pieces of divine revelation and manifestation, right? What's called a soul. You could really have it shine as you grow older. Now, let's put it this way. This isn't an absolute. We know people like Rabbi Nachman and the Ari, right? Rabbi Yitzchak, they died in their 30s. So what are you saying? They didn't acquire nefesh, ruach, neshama? I'm pretty sure that they did, right? Those are anomalies, right? The outliers. Basically, you do need the 4 to get to the 5th, but I wouldn't know where I am. As far as I'm concerned, I'm still working with a nefesh shel nefesh. As far as I'm concerned, I'm on the lowest rung. I haven't aged spiritually since my bar mitzvah. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea where I am. Not really. Nor have I ever asked, oh God, reveal to me where I am in the hierarchy of the soul and its revelation through the body. I've never done that. So I have no idea. I would challenge you, says Robert, to read it again this week. Achi, good come through for his people. God comes through, I'm assuming it's supposed to be God, comes through to his people, for his people, in Chavakuk 1. The Pishon River flowing into Eden. Yes, v'nahar yotze me'eden. No, it's flowing out. Nahar yotze me'eden lehashkot et hagan, u'misham yipared ve'aya le'arba'a rashim. It's a river that is split into 4, right? So it's the 3 higher sfirot, Keter, Chochma, Bina, right? Bina is known as the river, and it flows down, and it divides into 4. Let's see. Tea Time says, I used to enjoy spiritual things, prayer, services, spiritual reading and such. It feels in the last 10 years I've been having doubts and difficulties in prayer and belief. Wow, man, I'm sorry to hear that. It must be really, really tough to have that for such a long time. Such a long time. I am very privileged. I am really, really rich in the sense of spirituality. Because even if I suck, and I do, even in times when I exceedingly suck, I have my family around me, and I have the Torah that I do still learn pretty much on the daily, and certain Torah that I study only on, Shabbatot and new moons and holidays, festivals. And I have itbodedut, and I have prayer. I pray every day. So there's no real, there's no time for the dryness to take hold. Because even if I feel like I am really horrible and I'm doing bad things and I'm not listening to the Torah, I have people around me who keep reminding me of how amazing life can be. And I have people around me and books that I do continue to learn from and prayers that I continue to utter spontaneously. So I talk of these things as I'm going through them, as opposed to reading it from a prayer book which someone else wrote. So it never takes too much of a hold on me. Not for a very long time anyway. I'm able, through the grace of God, not through my doing, but through the grace of God, I am able, even when I am feeling really bad about myself, others around me can lift me up, and they may not even be trying to do so. I'm not walking around moping, with a face like it's the 9th of Av and I'm in mourning. No, simply by virtue of me being surrounded by family, being surrounded here in Jerusalem, with everything that's going on here, and having Torah in my house and prayer on my lips, that already does so much to elevate me, to give me the courage, and it does take some amount of courage, to rise up and lift yourself up and say, no, screw that, the past is the past. If I screwed up in the past, I can make it better in the future. I'm still here, I'm still drawing breath, I still have a job to do, let's get it on. And even if I failed 1,000 times, there is no guarantee that I'll fail. Go for it. There's no guarantee that I'll fail the 1,001st time. Maybe I had to go through all of that, 1,000 failures on a certain thing, to build myself up a bit, right? Like the way you grow a muscle is by breaking it apart, literally, by doing it, by, let's say, working it to failure, right? Until you just can't lift the barbell anymore. But that is exactly what will help the muscle grow. You know what I'm saying? Pushing yourself to the edge. David Data speaks of this in The Way of the Superior Man. He says a man needs to live on that edge. A man needs to know his edges and know how to live. Now, when speaking of failures, transgression, and sin, that's obviously missing the mark. All I'm saying is that having said that, because we all sin sometimes, the important thing is not to wallow in it. Right? Because that's what the evil inclination wants. That's what the evil forces of the world, let's say, would want. For you to say, screw it, I might as well just go and forsake it all. I'm not able to do anything. I'm feeling dry. I'm not feeling the grace of God. There's no closeness. There's no embrace. And even worse, it might be me who brought it upon myself. So to hell with it all. That also happens to a lot of people, by the way. So I'm sorry to hear you're having doubts and difficulties. But I think that you can also be emboldened and encouraged by the very fact that look what it is that you are having doubts and difficulties with. It's not some trivial thing. It's the very essence of life and your purpose in this world. That's what you are struggling with. So take heart, right? Take courage, take some comfort, some solace in the fact that you're not wasting your time with doubts and difficulties on many insignificant things. I'm sure you also have those, but insofar as this is concerned, if for the last decade you've been having doubts and difficulties, first of all, so I hope you can take some courage from that, even though it appears to be very, very negative. And guys, do you mind? A little bit lower. A little bit lower. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So yes, I hope that prayer and belief and faith, I hope that you will be able to rediscover that wellspring that's in you, mind you. It's usually not external. Obviously, external circumstances matter, like I just said, right? Torah, prayer, friends, family, things, people to lift you up, circumstances to lift you up. So, but then again, I don't know your particular circumstances. I don't know your particular conditions, Mr. Tea Time. So it's difficult for me to say. I just know that's the way that I relate to what you said. Shalom says, make straight. Hi, make straight. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, mi asher chata li emchenu misifri. Right, so he says that after the golden calf. Whoever sinned against me, I will erase him from my book. Make straight says, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Right? Lo al halechem levado yichyeh ha'adam, ki al kol motza pi Adonai yichyeh ha'adam. Yes, not bread alone. Make straight. Have you ever tried that? Asked Yodidiao. Marathon, said Robert Harrison. Marathon? I don't understand what that is in relation to, but okay. Wait, marathon, you're talking about Chavakuk? You might be talking about Chavakuk. I'm not sure. Spiritually, dryness, read the Bible, pray. Also very good. Basically, kind of saying what I was saying, yeah. And prayer. Spontaneous prayer. That is the most amazing thing in the world. And it can help you reach any level, open any key, give you the keys to open any gate. That's how I feel about it. Makes straight quotes the New Testament, and he says, Jesus answered and said to her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. Given you living water. Living water. Ken. Hoi kol tzameh lechul hamayim, said Isaiah. Oh, ye who are thirsty, go to the water. And water is Torah. I thought the Yechidah was around the age 37, says Yodidiahu, like the age of Isaac during the binding and King David's age when he ruled over all of Israel and Yehudah. Maybe. As far as I know, it's Nefesh at 13 and 1 day, Ruach at 20, Neshama at 40. And again, it's not that you are granted this. It's that from then, a channel opens up and you have the capacity of channeling higher revelations and having them manifest in your life. Again, this is not to say that you can't reach it before. It's saying that traditionally, as you age and you go through experiences and they bring you more wisdom, you are able then, by virtue of your own doing, to pull those divine revelations that we call Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechidah into yourself and have them manifest practically in your life, right? And when you are able to, shine forth, you are able to be that blessing to others, right? Avraham gets the blessing of, right, be blessed and be a blessing. Veheye bracha, be a blessing to others. It might be 37. I definitely don't know for sure. I think traditionally it's 13, 20, 40, but I'm not sure. Tea Time says, in my studies with Judaism, I found often in the case, different branches of Judaism don't recognize each other. So if someone is converted to Reform, Orthodoxy wouldn't recognize the conversion. Why? So basically, the Israeli rabbinate, right, the rabbinic establishment and institution in Israel, and Orthodox rabbis, right, and the OU, right, the Orthodox Union in the States, for instance, I don't think that they recognize conservative and Reform, Reconstructionist, all the other conversions. The reason is that if you are not rabbinically converted, now it doesn't have to take a year, but if you're not converted to Orthodox Rabbinic Judaism, then you might have a problem, with weddings, with children, with divorce, with everything to do with progeny and the relations between man and wife, right, and the institution of marriage. So that's the basic idea of why, because we do know that there have been different groups, different sects, as you said, that they didn't agree with each other, and yet they do live sort of in coexistence, or at least at the time. But for instance, with the Karaites, only after quite a while did the Rabbanut, right, the chief rabbinate of Israel, did they acknowledge that yes, they are Jews. Because if it's not Orthodoxy, according to Orthodox rabbis, it could be problematic. And you don't want to cause problems, because then the kids that are born might be, right, it's not a good situation. And so that's why Orthodox rabbis and the Orthodox communities, I think it's mainly for that purpose of the next generation and who is a Jew. Because we know that it used to be that the Israelites, the males, if they had a kid, the male is the male or female that they had, the man or the woman, the boy or the girl are Hebrew, are Israelites, are Jewish. But ever since the return from Babylon with Ezra and Nehemiah, if I'm not mistaken, it was then where, because people returned with foreign women who were not of the tribes of Israel, then they said, okay, you want to stay married to these women? Fine, but your kids will not be Jewish, because Judaism from now on, it's through the mother. And so she must either convert, or you must divorce her, marry a kosher Jew, and have kosher Jewish kids. I think that's when it flipped from father to mother, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that answers your question entirely, but that's what at least I'm thinking when you say, why wouldn't it recognize the conversion? Okay, Robert says, he that believeth on me, as the scripture hath said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water, quoting the New Testament. Chazak ve'ematz, be strong and be courageous, says Yodidiahu. No pain, no gain. It's true. It's true. I mean, it's true in the gym. I mean, if we're talking about gains, it's definitely true in the gym. You don't have to have pain, but even if it's not actual muscle building, right? Even if it's not gains, I mean, you have pains when you stretch. You know what I'm saying? You have pains in the beginning, perhaps. If you're not into the cardio, you're gonna feel some pains. Your muscles will be hoarse, perhaps the next day, maybe for a few days. But yes, through the pain, right? What is it? Peraspera ad astra. Through struggle, through hardship to the stars. That's the Latin phrase. Through hardship to the stars. Peraspera ad astra. Tea Time asks, what is a good psalm to use for morning prayer? I think it could help to read Psalms. Is there a psalm when King David felt sadness, despair, and distant from God that I can relate to? Yes, there are many of them, actually, where he says, I want to feel your closeness, I feel far away from you. I don't remember the chapters offhand, but there are plenty of them written by King David and others that speak of that sadness, that disparity, that distance, and they call out and they say, what is it? That I'm dry. Right? They use the phrase, right? Yavish, that's dryness, or yovish. I'm isolated from a healthy Orthodox church community and I don't drive. It's rough. I can imagine, because I am not looking for a community at this point in my life, but if you want to find a community and you are isolated from one, that really sucks. I feel for you, man. I hope that you'll be able to find maybe a digital outlet, if not a physical church, maybe a digital church that you can join for services in the morning, you know? Make Straight quotes the New Testament as well, saying, Jesus answered and said to her, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him, he continues, will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. Well, that's very reminiscent of the Torah. That's very reminiscent of the Torah. Which is why, if we say that Jesus did live and that he was a kosher Jew, so it makes a lot of sense that he would. Say exactly that. That's what the Torah is, right? It grants you that ability, right? Through when you take on the burden of Torah, you can also take on the liberty, the freedom, the redemption that is part and parcel of trying to contend with the Torah, with the commandments, with the covenant. It's a yoke and a burden, but it sets you free, right? Through the constraints, like an hourglass, right? That opens up again. Yonatan, take the shirt off, let's see the muscles, Achi. I don't think so. Yes. No, I don't think so. Is Mashiach known as Moshiach in Jewish tradition?
Oh.
Well, what do you mean known as? Because Mashiach traditionally is a king, and a king fights the battles of Israel, right? He goes to war. Of course, there were some times when the generals said to the king, do not go with us into war. We don't want you dead. But other than that, the king would go to war. So, right, Moshiach means deliverer. And so if we say that there's the idea of Nishmat Moshe Mashiach, the soul of Moses Messiah, there is a connection between the kingship and deliverance. there's a connection between Moses and Messiah, right? And in that sense, just like it was Moses who was the first king of Israel, even though he technically wasn't, or practically he wasn't a king with a crown, but he was technically the leader and the king at the time, then he is the deliverer, right? God working through Moses to deliver the Hebrew people. So Mashiach, I don't know if he is known as a Moshiach. Known as Moshiach is the Most High, right? Melech Goelu Moshiach, a redeeming and delivering king. That's what God is known as in somewhere in the prophets. It may very well be that Mashiach, right, will deliver the children of Israel, practically speaking, from Israel's enemies, if it comes to that. I pray for peace, Adonai. Real peace all over the world. So it's more, I think, associated with God than with Messiah, but it's God working through Messiah that gives that deliverance eventually. So beautiful language, beautiful man. Thank you for your knowledge and perspective, says Nancy. Thank you for the kind words. I don't know if I merit them, but I appreciate the vote of confidence for sure. What Hebrew year were you born? Hey Tafshin Mem Bet. So that's 5,742. Yes, thank you for reading the Hebrew, he says. Kyle is here. Hello, Kyle. In your opinion, would an increasingly armed and trained population be a positive or a negative for your country? Well, here we have mandatory conscription. Basically, everybody, more often than not, is trained, even if they went to the range once and they had the most minimal basic training. Well, maybe the most minimal, you won't fire a rifle, but anything above the very, very, very minimal, and maybe even then, you will go to a shooting range, you will fire either an M16 or a Tavor. So an increasingly armed and trained population is already what we have. It's simply that not everybody is in reserves right now, but the regulations and the constraints that were put on acquiring a personal firearm, which before the 7th of October were pretty strict, they have been loosened up a little bit. So in certain circumstances that weren't the same circumstances before, under certain conditions, you can now get a handgun. And if I'm not mistaken, 50, 70-something bullets, or rounds, rather. So in my opinion, would it be positive? Yes, it would be positive, but I need to think it through. As far as I'm concerned, it would be positive just right off the bat. Yes, because I know that people are trained. A lot of us go to the army, right? A lot of the people in Israel go and serve. So we have some familiarity with firearms, and if you were trained in even minimal combat training like myself, you still learn a lot in minimal combat training. So I can attest to the fact that I learned a lot. So that's my answer, but it really, I think so. I think it would be a positive in this specific case. You're done, my man. You're done. Who said you can keep playing? Daniel is your father now? You said you had 10 minutes, and that was a long time ago. Why did you do that?
I didn't have the full 10 minutes.
Oh, come on, man. No, I don't buy that. Forget it. Let's not do this now. I don't buy that, people. He had 10 minutes. He had more than 10 minutes. Okay. Very well. Then your 10 minutes are done now, okay? Okay. Yes, but if I had not said anything, you would have continued. Forgive me for this. Kyle says, he said that. Bloodnose says, why was Reform Judaism even allowed? Well, what do you mean allowed? People branch out from Rabbinic Judaism because they saw, much like I did. I didn't branch out and form a different path. I'm just following a path that I consider to be good for me right now. It might not be. It might come back to bite me in the ass, right? My cherry picking. I pick and choose everything all the time. No apologies. That can't fly if you're trying to have an organized religion, usually. So why was it allowed? I think it was allowed because it was, if I'm not mistaken, at the time of the Emancipation, right? At the time of the Enlightenment, which means that certain things were in a kind of contradiction and opposed in some ways to Rabbinic Judaism, who was a lot more conservative, who wanted to close themselves off more. So It feels like it feels a lot like the Christian break with Protestantism, with Protestantism. Right. So that was what, 500 years ago, Protestantism, right? Um, oh, who was it? Oh, come on, who nailed his protest to the door? What was his name? Martin Luther? No, no, that was someone else. I don't recall. Somebody did that, right? And the way that Protestantism started, if I'm not mistaken, is because of a protest, because of something where someone was like, "No, this is not the way. It's not the way. I want to protest this. I want to do something else." Now, you do that at your own peril, because breaking away from an ancient tradition has its risks and its dangers and its pitfalls. But I think it's a high risk, high reward sort of situation where if by some miracle you do manage to not screw up, then you have a different path now which is viable. Not 100% airtight, lovely, but viable. And that means a lot. And that's also true to the different Hebrew sects. So why was it allowed? I don't know what you mean by allowed. I mean, what are they going to do? The religious people would simply disallow it? How is that going to happen, practically speaking? I'm curious. What they did do is something called a cherem or nidui, which is where they would ostracize and cast out members from the community if they went astray. They would not marry their kids to them. They would not have anything to do with them, as far as I know, unless they repented and atoned and came back to the fold, right, and to the path of orthodoxy. I'm pretty sure cherem, nidui, that's the way that they would do it. So in that sense, it may have not been allowed, but it thrived nonetheless. And I think it thrived because it does have something in its core, tikkun olam, right? Tikkun olam, well, it's not fixing, but it's basically the coming together, right, of the world, repairing, if you will, the world. And this is not in a condescending way. It's a way of thinking outside of the box of Torah, seemingly, ostensibly, although Torah speaks to that as well. The Bible speaks to that as well. So why was it allowed? I suppose I kind of half-assed answered, and I did mention how I see that you can see it in the same way as the Christian break with Protestantism, but because I don't know enough about the break from the church to Protestantism, I don't know. Kyle Govender Yodidiao asks you, how do you feel about the U.S. Constitution? Eize ir אתה גר? I am in Jerusalem, אני בירושלים, שלום. Anna min Urshalim el Quds. Psalm 63 says make straight. Okay, that's a good one. I'm assuming you're referring to what Tea Time said. Yodidiao asks, have you noticed David and Shlomo didn't follow the Torah? When do you think Jews started to make the Torah a real daily practice? Well, again, they did follow the Torah. It's simply that you can't say that they followed everything 100%. They were part of the people who laid down the halacha, right? But they did have halacha, an oral law that was passed on from generation to generation to them, right? But we see when Shlomo went astray and married all those women, eventually in his old age, they tilted his heart towards non-kosher ways. So when you say David and Shlomo didn't follow the Torah, I'm inclined to disagree. It doesn't mean that they followed exactly 613 commandments as we know them now, but I believe they did follow the Torah in the sense of that they probably knew of it, read it, and tried to implement it in their lives. And because they are human, and because they fail, then that also manifested, right? It's a world of duality, good and evil, right? Positive and negative. And there's nobody, like it says in Mishlei, in Proverbs, there is no righteous person who will do good and not sin. It's like sin is part and parcel of living in this world. It's just that you need to try to not miss the mark so much, and to orient yourself and guide yourself and hold that bow straight and shoot it true in order to reach the target. When did Jews start making the Torah a real daily practice? I think ever since the giving of the Torah, it was a daily practice. Only that not everyone did all the commandments, of course, because as we know, 613 of them, and people have the ones that they are more inclined, right, that they have a a proclivity to do, that they are a tendency to go with, and ones that they simply do because it's lore, law, tradition, and certain things are binding, like decisions from the court. And once again, if you didn't go with the decisions of the court, maybe you would risk being ostracized, cast out of the community, and so on and so forth. So when do I think Jews started to make it a daily practice? Ever since it was given on Sinai. Ever since it was given on Sinai, it's been a practice. Now, you could say, Yonatan, you're full of it. Show me how that's true historically. I wouldn't be able to tell you. It's just a feeling I have. Yodidiahu, Kyle says, Yodidiahu, I agree with it mostly, but it needs a bit of reform as it was written with that intent, the U.S. Constitution. Yes, it was written with, as far as I know, it's like a blueprint, right? It's like, here's what we want to build. But as you start building it, you understand that maybe you need to tweak this, tweak that, take this out, add this in. It needs to be something which goes along with the modern times, but also does not neglect or negate those inalienable rights, right? Ben Dod can also mean cousin. Yes, that is correct. With a different punctuation, with different nikud, it's the same thing. Ben Dod, yes. Why is he known as Mashiach if he wasn't Mashiach anointed yet? Was the Mashiach anointed before creation? Well, what do you mean, why is he known as Mashiach? He definitely was anointed, right? All the brothers, 7 brothers, and then David showed up. He was with the flock. But Shmuel, right? It's not this guy, God didn't choose him, and as soon as David shows up, there he is, pour some oil on that dude, that's it, it's a wrap, that's the anointed one, that's the king. Now, as for the idea of Mashiach being anointed before creation, once again, what do you mean creation? Do you mean this physical world? Because we have the 10 sfirot. The final sfira is called Malchut, kingdom. The top sfira is called Keter, crown. Crown and kingdom correspond. Keter Elyon ihu Keter Malchut, says Eliyahu, right, in the Zohar. The crown of the kingdom, or the crown of the kingship, right, that line that runs straight down from top to bottom, from bottom to top, and that, if we're talking about a kind of final Mashiach that is supposed to usher in us unifying and partaking of the fruit of the tree of life eventually, then that's the type of person who will be able to bring it all to a close and for something else to open up at the close. That reminds me of Harry Potter. I open at the close. Huh? Does anyone recognize that, or is it too obscure? Ariel is here. Hello, Ariel. So, Mashiach as a human was not anointed before creation. The capacity for kingship, the capacity for one who wears a crown, the capacity for being anointed, right? Something being poured on you from on high to your highest point and giving you authority, right? It's like a sacred act. That was kind of established in the spiritual world, and later it manifested here physically with the anointing of kings, prophets, priests, and with lepers. Lepers are also anointed, not on their head. Also on their head. I know they do the ear and the thumb and the big toe. I think the rest of it maybe goes on their head. Not.
Who was the last king?
Not now. I mean, I think it was it Chizkiyahu? The last Hebrew king? I think it may have been Chizkiyahu. Oh, no, what am I talking about? The last king was Agrippas, in the time of the Second Temple. Ken, b'diuk, Rehov Agrippas. He was the king, yes.
Okay.
Yes, he was a good king. He was the last Hebrew king, if I'm not mistaken, of the house of Hashmonai, right, the Hashmonai dynasty.
Yeah.
Hey guys, says Ariel, honestly, with all due respect, I think God's opinion is more important than that of a rabbinic organization. I concur, and yet, Torah was given to mankind, Torah was given to the sages, Torah was given to us in order to also interpret it and follow it practically, right? Because we are human beings. No other creature can do that, physical or spiritual. The Torah was given to us, right? It's said that when Moses ascended to Sinai and he was about to receive the Torah, the angels are like, what, this amazing thing? You're going to give it to them? Why? Keep it here. Right? That spiritual Torah, which was not written down, let's say. They say it was white fire on black fire. Not the same Torah exactly that we have here and now. This is the physical manifestation of the Torah in a world which already is good and evil, in a world which we have the right spirit and earth, in a world where humans are out of Eden. But I digress a little. Point is, God says, all right, the Torah says, all these things having to do with the physical body. Do you, angels, have a physical body? They said, no. It speaks of the Sabbath. Do you work? That you need to rest? Do you have hard labor, physical labor? No. So, humans got it. It also says that because of that, all of the angels that were there, each one gave Moses a piece of wisdom, a secret, a piece of lore to bring down. And that the angel of death gave Moses the secret that the incense, the ktoret of the temple, can bring life and richness and wealth. And we see that with Aharon standing between the living and the dead after he puts the incense, after he puts it on the coals. All right. But yes, eventually God's opinion is more important. But if we're saying God's opinion, it means a revelation, not an actual opinion in the mind of God, because I don't know God. So when I read that, I say there's a revelation of what God wanted, the opinion of what ought to be, written in the Torah. Alongside that, there was an oral tradition handed down that later had to be written. And because of that, rabbinic organizations had to be erected, had to be established, had to come into the world. This is not the ideal. It's not, but it's simply what had to happen so the Torah will not be completely forgotten, right? It was the result of destruction, of exile, of infighting, of tribal war. It was the result of the destruction of the temple and of tragedy and woe and death and suffering. That's why halacha was written down, like I spoke of yesterday or the other day or 2 days ago. So while I do agree that God's opinion, whatever that means, is more important, it is us who need to carry out and perform these commandments. It is us who are living in this physical world, in the muck and the stank of the world, right? Which means that we need to contend with it. And if we are going to take this high spiritual path, right, this Hebrew lore from days of yore, we also need to figure out how we implement it here and now in a way which can channel those same divine revelations, if you will, at the time when the temple, the tabernacle, or in Eden, in those times when there was the unity of the male and female divine presence. We need to make it happen now. And rabbinic organizations, for all of their faults and all of their miserable failures, I do believe that they have, it's not a question of what's more important, it's a question of what's necessary and needed. And right now, as we hold right now in this world and the way that it is, we do need rabbinic institutions. It doesn't mean, right, even if we didn't need them from the onset, some people definitely need them. And the fact that there are rabbinic organizations, rabbinic institutions, some people can say, no, that's the very failure of religion. That is the failure that you can't make a personal connection with God and you need to have like this external thing. But we had the temple had priests and Levites and Israelites, right? We had the different, each one doing his own job, together bringing about that union of the male and female divine presence. So we each have our duty, right? What does the Tao Te Ching say? When we all do what we are supposed to do, we're all doing the same thing, right? When every individual performs his or her task, then really in reality, we're all doing the same thing. We're all doing what we are supposed to be doing. So there's a unity to that individualism. You know what I'm saying? I hope I'm making some sense. Kyle, what about the right to bear arms? Asks Yodidiao. What indeed? Tea Time asks, what are your thoughts on Bat Chayil versus Bat Mitzvah? I don't know what a Bat Chayil is, so you'll have to enlighten me. I don't know what a Bat Chayil is. I know what a Bat Mitzvah is. Look, the whole idea of a celebration of a Bar Mitzvah that's relatively new. It has origins in the time of the post-Second Temple, or maybe even Second Temple. Basically, when a boy, turned 13, and one day he would be brought before the elders of whatever village, town, city, and he would be taught, and he would be spoken to, and he would be given a path, right? Now you are learning how to become a man. Here is what we do. This is our tradition. These are our ways. With a daughter, it was a little different, because while men need to be initiated by the elders, women are initiated by Mother Nature herself, as it were, right? By the divine feminine presence. And they are very much closer to God in their ability to bring life into the world. Yes, the male plays a part, but it's them who carry the burden physically and who later deliver the baby into the world. So in that sense, they are much closer to God and to godliness, right? Whereas men need to be taught, women are simply open to receive that gift. Which one do you prefer if you had daughters? So I don't know what a bat mitzvah, I don't know what a bat chayil is. Please enlighten me. Can someone have Orthodox Jewish conversion but attend conservative or Reform synagogue? Yes, I have attended conservative and Reform, egalitarian, if maybe synagogues, maybe minions, right, gatherings, prayers. At any rate, yes, you can. Some Orthodox rabbis would say, no, you can't, because it involves men and women being together, because it involves women going up to the Torah, because it involves women leading the prayer service, and these are things which, according to some Orthodox communities, people, rabbis, halachic scholars, and rulers, is a no-no. Then again, some Orthodox communities are very egalitarian. It's right? Now, they are considered more progressive, for better or worse, but they do exist. So I'm inclined to say that, halachically speaking, you can. I would think you can, unless there is something going on there which is really sort of breaking apart a fence, so to speak, right? And breaking down the walls of orthodoxy, unless something truly, I don't know what to say, anti-orthodox, let's say, for lack of a better term. No, that's a horrible term. Let's not use that. Anyway, under certain circumstances, I think a rabbi, an Orthodox rabbi, would say, no, it's better that you pray alone in your home than go to a conservative or Reform minyan. And then I'm sure there are Orthodox rabbis who would say, no, they're Jews, so go and pray with them. And it may be with instruments on the Sabbath, which is not the Orthodox way. It may be with women leading the service or reading the Torah, which is not always the Orthodox way, but you should do it anyway because it's still a congregation. It depends on your master. It depends on your rabbi. So can someone have it, a conversion, but attend that? Yes. Is it something which is desired in the eyes of Orthodox Rabbinic Judaism or rabbis? I have no idea. Yes. ואנוכי אסתיר פניי ביום ההוא על כל הרעה אשר עשה כי פניי לאלוהים אחרים. So this is from the Torah portion, Ha'azinu. I will hide my face. But it doesn't say I will hide my face. It says I will hide the hiding of my face. And I've mentioned this before. There's the idea, let's say, right, I've brought this down. Let's say I lost my keys. All right? What do? I look for them. Why do I look for them? Because I know that I lost them. Okay. Now let's say that I arrive at a door or a gate, and it's locked. But I don't know that a key is supposed to open it. I don't know that, or a key or an electronic fob, right? I don't know that I'm missing something. Okay? So in one of these scenarios, you're missing something, but you know what it is, and so you can seek it. In this other scenario, you don't even know that you are missing something. All you are seeing is a closed barrier. So that's haster astir. Haster astir is hiding the fact that I am hiding, right? Because speaking of being apart from God, if you know that God is hiding from you, so to speak, you can do something in order to get yourself closer. But if God hides the fact that he is hidden, then you don't even know that that is what you are supposed to be seeking. And so it's a double whammy. It's, feeling like there's a barrier, like something is stopping you, but you don't even know what it is that you are supposed to do about it. So it's a very difficult situation. God will hide his face on that day for all of the wickedness that he did because he turned to other gods. That right? So that's from Ha'azinu. Moses and Yehoshua teach this song, this verse as part of the song, the poem Ha'azinu. And it's a wonderful poem, and it speaks of what was and what will be, right? Past, present, and future. That's your birth year verse, 5,742. I don't buy it for 1 sec. Martin Luther. Oh, I was right. Dr. Martin Luther King from USA was named after him. Right, that's what I figured. Yeah, okay, so I was right. Look at that. Excuse me? Okay. You don't buy it for 1 sec? What don't you buy for 1 sec? The fact that God will hide the hiding of his face? Hastev astir? What do you mean? Yodidiah says, Martin Luther... Oh, Kyle said to Yodidiah... Bloodnose said... Yes, it was Martin Luther. This was 1500, right when the printing press was invented. Religions really broke free of orthodoxy. Right, also because until that time, basically, it was only the Orthodox and the most sacred and pious religious folk who knew the texts. So you had no choice, really, but to go to them. Many people were illiterate. They couldn't read or write, and so they had to turn to human beings for interpreting the will and word of God. Martin Luther, the Protestant guy during the Florian's Rebellion. Yes, Martin Luther, right, okay. Yodidiah says, okay, so I'm not going to read all the Hebrew, but he says that there were times when the Passover wasn't observed. And it says it a few times. It says that the Passover wasn't observed and the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot, was not observed. Yes, there were times, again, when things were not observed and other things were because it was in the Torah. So you can make a very good argument. You could totally make a case that the Torah was not kept and observed and carried out by everybody all of the time. But, right, what's the phrase, right? You can't fool all the people all the time. In the same vein, everybody won't keep all the Torah all the time, but certain people, I believe, have always kept to the path, and sometimes the congregation, as we see from those verses, sometimes the congregation at large and mass kept to the path. I've been on for over an hour. This is fun. I'm having a lot of fun. It's so much fun. Martin Luther King Jr. does indeed cause confusion, says Bloodnose. His father named him that to align with black protest. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Yodidiah says, David didn't make proper Passover and Sukkot, the two of the three main festivals, to go up to the temple. Right, and there was no temple, right? There was a tabernacle. Also, let's put it this way. You know what? Obviously, you're not the first one to claim this, and I do remember, I vaguely remember something which a commentator or two say, but since I don't know it offhand by heart properly, I'm not going to say it. I am going to say that there are, let's say, explanations or ways of reconciling this seemingly glaring transgression. So yes. Oh, back up today, LOL. Back up today, me. Back up today, you. Either way, LOL. Laugh out loud. Tea Time says, Yon. My father calls me that, but you can feel free to call me that. Have you heard about what Jews think about a monarchy versus democratic system? Well, I know that there are many religious folk who want to see the kingship returned and an anointed king on his throne in Jerusalem. And the majority does not want that. The majority wants to keep the Jewish state democratic, right? The rule of the people. So have I heard what they think? That's what I would be inclined to say. But then again, even many secular Jews say, when Messiah arrives. So even if they are not entirely conscious of it, they are invoking the idea of the anointed king, of the kingship returning to Israel. And many people, right, when they sing Am Yisrael Chai, David Melech Yisrael Chai B'Kayam, David, the king of Israel, is alive and exists. This doesn't mean that David, the son of Yishai, himself exists. It means that the monarchy is going to make a comeback, and we will have an anointed king again who will embody the very same sphira which David did, right? The sphira of Malchut, and bring about that union of female and male divine presence. So that's what I would say offhand, right, off the cuff rather, on monarchy versus democracy. As for me, if there is a king that the people all embrace together, I'm willing to accept the kingship. Otherwise, I think democracy, at least for the time being, is the way to go. But Messiah, whenever he is anointed, whenever he is crowned, I will be on board with that. Because I hope it would mean that we got our act together and we were able to do it together as a people. Right? Because Messiah, or a potential Messiah, even before he is anointed, even before he sits on his throne, even before he receives the crown from whatever prophet or from the people who will be around then, he can do certain things as a potential Messiah apparent, if you will, and not as a king sitting on his throne anointed. So if certain things come to pass, and it's the individual, the leader, a leader, some kind of leader who is leading this spiritual and physical charge towards unity and towards renewing the days of old into the future, right? Carrying the ancient ways into the future, that's somebody that I could get behind. And I think it's somebody that a lot of the people of Israel will be able to get behind, which means that until such time, keep it democratic, I think. I think it's important right now for Israel to have a rule of the people. But if we are able to come together and anoint a king, then that would be preferable, because it means that we will be able to rally under one banner. Make Straight quotes the Psalm, "The happiness of those whose help is the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, O my soul. Barchi nafshi et Adonai. While I live, I will praise the Lord. I will sing praises to my God while I have my being." Yes. Barchi nafshi et Adonai. Azamra le'Elohai be'odi. Bloodnose says, "I had a rabbi for a history professor in college. He usually referred to God as she. Is that a reform-style Judaism?" Well, God manifests in male and female, in masculine and feminine. It's just that in different ways. And because there is a revelation called the Shekhinah, which is the divine feminine presence, there's a higher Shekhinah and a lower Shekhinah, it's permissible to call God she, because God is not he or she. So, right, God is non-binary. So, in that sense, that's what I'm thinking. Though I'm inclined to think that most Orthodox Jews would feel a kind of uncertainty about calling God she. So it might be more reserved for Orthodox and conservatives, maybe not, for Reform and conservatives and others, but I don't know. Tea Time asks, Yon, do you think animal sacrifice is outdated and the sacrifices of the new temple should be burning herbs? So I've spoken of this many times. I believe that the third temple, if it is erected, will be vegan, even if not at first. The sacrifices of animals will just be a means to an end. Eventually it will be phased out. So yes, it is outdated. I think if sacrifice and ritual worship is reintroduced into the zeitgeist, with a temple, a tabernacle, something, right, as a stepping stone towards us manifesting that image of God within ourselves, and we won't need the temple anymore. So yes, I think it is outdated, and if it does transpire again, it will only be for a short period of time before we go, hey, it should be a vegan temple, and we should all be vegan as we were in Eden, and that's the way I see it. But it's not outdated in the sense of what it is conveying, what it represents, and what it can do to the individual who is making the sacrifice. That is still completely relevant, alive and kicking. So in that sense, it isn't outdated. Right? It's a means to an end. So the means might be outdated, but the end in itself is not outdated at all. It's very relevant, very, very pertinent. Make straight continues, do not put your trust in princes, nor in the children of men, in whom there is no help. His spirit departs, right? Bayom hahu avdu eshtonotav. He returns to his earth, and that very day his plans perish. Avdu eshtonotav. His thoughts would be gone, or would go missing in the original Hebrew. So yes, that's correct. And these verses are said every day in the morning prayers in Tfilat Shachrit. Ariel says, I agree that we need rabbinic institutions to preserve and unravel the Torah. Right, yeah. So cool, we're on the same page there. Tea Time says, often in Orthodox custom, at the age of 12, a Jewish girl becomes a bat chayil, which means daughter of valor. Well, I know of a bat mitzvah, but I don't know of a bat chayil. So, let's see. Bat Chayil is an Orthodox Jewish ceremony for girls, it says. It takes place close to the girl's 12th birthday, but not as part of Shabbat. Voila. Interesting. Now, I'm sure it goes about it in a different way, because oh, you know what? Can one of you please check if Rami Levi arrived? If there's stuff waiting? Thank you, my dear. I haven't heard of Bat Chayil. That's news to me. I mean, of course, I've heard of a Bat Mitzvah. No. Open it and see if it's next to the door.
No, nothing.
Nothing. Thank you. Well, what? They're not going to arrive now. Could you knock? What? Yeah. Could you maybe just knock? Don't enter, but knock and tell Ima they have not arrived. One of you, thank you. So yeah, daughter of valor, Bat Chayil. I did not know of that tradition. I didn't know it's the name of it. That's interesting. 5. Make straight quotes. Happy is he who has the God of Jacob for his help. Ashrei she'el Yaakov be'ezro, sivro al Adonai Elohav, whose hope is in the Lord, his God. Who made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them? Who keeps truth forever? Who executes justice? For why? Wait, who executes justice? Okay. Thank you. Why at 13 years? What is the significance and meaning of the age 13 years, though? So why is it 13? I don't know offhand why it's 13. Obviously, it has to do with puberty, first and foremost. First and foremost, it has to do with puberty, because that's the age where it could happen around that time to physically be able to do your part to bring life into the world, right? So that would be when you are starting to become a man. And if you're starting to become a man or a woman, right, respectively, then it means that you need to start carrying the burden of manhood or womanhood. I think that's why it's there. Though I'm sure that there is a significance and meaning to 13, nothing comes to mind associatively. So if I did study it sometime and know why, I haven't repeated it enough, I haven't gone over my Torah, right, enough, or teachings, but nothing comes to mind. It might have more to do with puberty and the biological characteristics of adolescence than an actual age being significant. But it probably is, and I simply am ignorant. But I hope, you know what, I will put that in my notes, and I will look into that another time. Wait, who said it? It was Make Straight. Hang on, I'll write that down. Okay, I hope to look into that. Yodidiao says, when a verb in Torah is double, it's always emphasizing the word. I will surely hide. Right, so I think I answered that, right? Haster astir. You said that to your kid. I don't buy that. No, I said it to him because I didn't buy it.
Say what?
But, no, him. But I agreed with him eventually, because why split hairs here? Ariel, that suggests God cannot re-reveal a revelation, or perhaps will not. He says to Ariel, I prefer to look to preachers and scripture for confirmation of what God has shown me directly. Right, so you look for confirmation, but not for unraveling truth. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. I agree kind of with both. One has to do with the individual's path, and one has to do with the individual's path within a collective or a community, a congregation. So there are different ways of going about it. Both, I don't know if there's one that is inherently better, because we are a very social creature. We are social animals, and as such, being part of a community, I know the power of community. I know the power of a congregation, of a collective. I choose to do my own thing at this point in life, but I certainly am aware of how important and life-changing it can be to be part of a community. So I see both of the points of view here. Free the hemp trees in Israel, says Tea Time. Sneezer says he was crowned with a crown of thorns. Okay, by Rome, because a nation needs a king or queen. Yes, and they also hung a sign, right, in Greek and in Hebrew and in Latin, or Roman, right? Latin, I suppose, that said that he's king of the Jews, but the Jews never crowned him. The Jews never anointed him. Rome may have crowned him, but the Jews did not. Sneezer, the Taylor says, Iran will regret this war, or things will escalate. Israel losing is not an option, though. I agree, losing is not an option. We need to keep our streak of kicking ass in war, especially defensive wars. Sneezer says everyone always regrets war except Israel. You don't think that Israel regrets war? Come on now. Where are you pulling that out of? What are you talking about? I don't accept that at all. I completely disagree with that statement. Taylor says, I am not Jewish, but Israel is my very religion. Israel is the way to humanity's future. Well, I think that the way to humanity's future, the key to humanity's future, I think that for the Hebrews, it's certainly the key. For others, they may have their own key, right? To lead them back to that same route. Yodidyao asks, when do you think Iran will attack Israel, today or on Shabbat? I don't know if they will attack. Maybe it's all blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'll know when I hear the sirens. If I hear the sirens. Sneezer says, non-binary is binary, non being a function of binarism. Well, okay, it was kind of half-assed in jest. Because, again, we are anthropomorphizing God. We are using human terms to describe non-human things. It's like, yes, obviously we will be using terms and ideas and conceptions in order to bring it down to earth so we can have something to contend with and wrestle with and struggle with and be able to receive certain things. So yeah, I'm quite comfortable using she for God, she, he being more accurate perhaps. Because the S is in parentheses. Because God is unary. Yes, right? In Hebrew we say echad yachid umiyuchad, which is one, singular, and unique. Define democracy? Well, the rule of the people. Isn't that literally what it means in Greek? Right, non-binary is an oxymoron. I'm inclined to agree. It's just another way of saying I don't connect to either expression of gender, and I can go with whatever expression I want. That's what it means, tachlis. That's what it means practically. Taylor says, the third temple is indeed vegan. Animal sacrifices and Jesus' sacrifice are both antiquated. Everyone will be presenting sacrificial energy. You live and I live. Taylor, what a wonderful way to put it. I'm inclined to agree that, yeah, live and let live. Right on. Who antiquated Jesus' sacrifice? Sneezer asks Taylor. Taylor continues, Judaism said, I live, you die. Christianity says, I die and you live. But the third testament will be equal, I live and you live. Right, in the book of Isaiah, It says that there will be a new covenant, right? So this is not so far-fetched. It's like we all are looking forward to a new covenant, but one that is based on the Torah, on the old one. And at least that's how I see it in the book of Isaiah, when he speaks of a new earth, a new sky, a new covenant. It's something that we will hopefully be arriving at together. Democracy is a wonderful concept, says Ariel. I agree. I agree. It is a wonderful concept. I see hemp fields, says Tea Time, quoting Ziggy Marley. I see hemp fields forever growing wild and free. I see marijuana trees blowing in the breeze. It is a wonderful plant. It is a wondrous plant. It is medicine. It's good for industry. Excuse me?
No.
1 more than 12, first after 12. 13 referencing new in many ways. Ah, okay, I hear what you're saying. So it's after 12, right? And 12, right? 12 is the constellations, right? And the zodiac and the months and the tribes. So there's a lot there in 12. And Shtemesre Gvulei Alachson, it's known in the teachings of the Ramak. That's 6 against 6. It's also mentioned in Sefer Yetzirah that there are 12 simple Hebrew letters, right? There are three mothers and 7 doubles and 12 simple ones. So yes. So now that Sneezer says...
1 second, look, 1 second. Wait.
Excuse me, won't you?
Look. Shut up.
It's a fine goal, but it's nothing major. I like the setup more. I like the assist more than the goal itself.
What?
Because the assist made it happen. Playing FIFA. No, dude, no. I enjoyed the assist more than the goal. Okay. I often think of 12 being significant too, so yes, it is. The end of innocence, which is a downfall, he said to Bloodnose said to Sneezer. Yeshua had 12 disciples and he was 13. 13 is echad. Yes, that is correct. And 13 and 13 are 26, which is the gematria of Yod Hei Vav Hei, right? We are one, God is one, and we will be, right? We are the image of God, and that is God, right? It's like we are the reflection of God, the mirror image. Too many possible interpretations from a book, in my opinion, said Sneezer. Doesn't matter, the Jews never crowned him, only kings can crown kings. No, I believe you're mistaken. The people can crown a king, a prophet can crown a king. Those are the people... Wow, they are arriving really late. Sneezer says, before that it's just a rebel, no matter how many support them. I'm not sure, because if you read the books of Kings, it's they're either anointed by a prophet. Hey, enough. Kings are either anointed by a prophet or by the people, the masses, the mob. Hey, oi! Pinky, stop being so stinky. Kyle says, Israel is in no position to fight a defense war. You know what? I wouldn't know what Israel's capacity is and what Israel's ability is. I think that we can, but I'm not basing that on anything but the grace of God, I suppose. Sneezer says, for example, if no other kings recognized David, he would not have been a king, no matter what you call him. What do you mean? Shaul was the king before, and he didn't recognize David. Eventually, maybe he did, but first there was that rivalry, and it was Shmuel, the prophet, who anointed David, and he wasn't a king. Of course, they did support them, said Sneezer. Okay. All right. You know what? It's been almost an hour and a half. I'm going to say goodbye right now. God willing, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll finish this chat. I still have more questions from Tea Time, which I haven't addressed yet. I hope to do that tomorrow. Thank you, each and every one of you. This has been so much fun. I don't take it for granted. You take time out of your busy day, evening, night, whatever it is, to come and be here with me, whether it's live, whether you're watching it later. I appreciate every sub, every like, every comment, every little blip in the chat, every contribution you make, your experiences, your lore, your wisdom, your knowledge. It gives me a lot. It enlivens me. It's so much fun to be doing this with you here. So much. Almost every night, right? Sunday through Thursday. I might see you tomorrow. I might see you Saturday night. Chances are I will see you Sunday night. But we'll see then. Until then, have a good night from Jerusalem. Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate the time we spent together.